Sometimes the most dangerous crimes aren't committed in the dark. They're committed in plain sight. On a street where everyone thought they were safe, one man saw too much, and what he discovered would unravel everything they thought they knew about their neighbors. A quiet block in Crestwood suburbs. White picket fences, porch lights flickering. Summer nights filled with crickets and distant car horns. Normal, peaceful. But under that normalcy, something rotten was brewing. Ethan Cole, mid-30s, freelance web developer, known for keeping to himself, always home late at night because of insomnia. Ethan wasn't the type to pry, but when you spend long nights staring out of your window, sooner or later, the world starts staring back. It begins on a random Thursday, 1:43 a.m. Ethan is half awake at his desk coding. Out of habit, he glances out of his living room window. And that's when he sees it. A flashlight beam darting across the second floor of the house across the street. The Marlowe's house. A normal family, husband, wife, teenage daughter. Except the Marlowe's weren't home. They'd left for vacation 2 days earlier. The house was supposed to be empty, but Ethan saw movement, a shadow, pacing across the upstairs window, stopping, staring, as if it knew it was being watched. Ethan freezes. He doesn't call the cops, not yet. He tells himself maybe it's a friend of the family checking in. Maybe he's tired, seeing things. But then, something chills him. The figure raises a hand and waves. It wasn't random. It wasn't a mistake. Whoever was inside knew Ethan was watching. The next morning, Ethan wakes to police cars 2 streets over. A woman reported missing. Not the Marlowe's, not connected. But Ethan remembers, the shadow appeared the same night. Coincidence? Maybe. But what Ethan didn't know was that this was only the beginning. Because every time the shadow appeared, someone in the neighborhood would vanish. Ethan tried to move on. He told himself it was nothing. But the mind has a way of holding on to what the eyes can't explain. And for Ethan, what he saw that night refused to let him go. Ethan sits on his porch with a coffee, watching his neighbors go about their day. Kids ride bikes, dogs bark, lawn sprinklers hiss. Everything looks painfully normal. But then, he notices something small, almost insignificant. The Marlowe's mailbox, overflowing. Flyers crammed in, newspapers piling at the curb. Ethan, they've been gone 3 days. Shouldn't someone have picked this up for them? He looks at the upstairs window again. Curtain drawn, still, silent. On the surface, Crestwood looks safe, but Ethan couldn't shake the image of that wave, that deliberate gesture, as if the shadow wasn't hiding but performing. 2 days later, Ethan's phone buzzes with a neighborhood alert. Another resident missing. This time, Angela Ruiz, a single mom who lived 3 houses down. She was last seen walking her dog around 10 p.m. Ethan remembers he was awake that night. He didn't see Angela, but he did see the light, flickering again in the Marlowe house. Ethan, alarmed to himself. No, this can't be coincidence. Ethan calls the police non-emergency line. He tells them what he saw, a shadow in the supposedly empty Marlowe house. Flat, dismissive. Sir, we did a sweep of the neighborhood already. The Marlowe property is secure. Probably just lights reflecting. Are you sure you weren't dreaming? Ethan, I wasn't dreaming. Someone waved at me. Silence on the line. Then a sigh. Noted, we'll keep it on file. Low, heavy. They didn't believe him, but someone else did. That evening, Ethan gets a knock on his door. It's Mr. Harland, the HOA president, a tall man, mid-50s, with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. Harland, pleasant but firm. We've had reports you've been making calls, telling people you've seen things. It's important for the community that we don't spread rumors, understand? Ethan, confused, defensive. I saw someone in the Marlowe house. You're telling me no one cares? Harland, smiling, leaning in. Sometimes it's better not to see too much. People get nervous. People talk. I'd hate for you to feel unwelcome here. Harlan leaves without another word. Sharp, ominous. It wasn't a warning, it was a threat. And for the first time, Ethan realized the danger wasn't just across the street, it was right at his front door. That night, Ethan can't sleep. His blinds are cracked open just enough to see across the street. Hours pass. Nothing. Silence. Then at 2:17 a.m., movement. The shadow appears again in the window. This time, Ethan notices something terrifying. The shadow isn't alone. It's holding something. No, someone. A figure, struggling. A woman, hands bound. Ethan's breath caught in his chest. He wasn't imagining it. He wasn't paranoid. Someone was inside that house, and they weren't there willingly. He grabs his phone, ready to dial 911, when the light in the room suddenly goes out. Total darkness. Ethan finally had proof, but proof means nothing if you're the only one alive to tell the story. Faded, faint sound of a phone buzzing unanswered. Ethan had seen enough. This wasn't paranoia. It wasn't a dream. Someone was in that house, and someone was in danger. But the moment the lights went dark, Ethan realized something far more chilling. Whoever was in that room knew he was watching. The next morning, Ethan sets up a camcorder in his living room window, hidden behind the blinds. He adjusts the lens, making sure it points directly at the Marlowe house. Ethan to himself whispering, "If no one believes me, I'll make them believe." It was a desperate plan, but desperation makes you reckless, and recklessness is how people disappear in Crestwood. That afternoon, Ethan goes for a walk, trying to act normal. As he passes the Marlowe driveway, he notices faint scrape marks in the concrete, as if something heavy had been dragged. Then he sees it, dark stains, faint but visible, leading toward the side door. Ethan whispering, shaken, "Blood." Suddenly, a voice breaks the silence. Harland from behind, calm. "Something wrong, Ethan?" Ethan whirls around. Harland stands there, smiling again, but his eyes stay cold. Ethan forcing a smile. "Just getting some air." Harland leaning closer. "Good. Fresh air clears the mind. Don't let it play tricks on you." Dark, deliberate. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a warning. Harland wasn't just the HOA president. He was watching him, every step. That night, Ethan rewinds the camcorder tape. Hours of silence, darkness, empty windows. Then, at 2:11 a.m., movement. The curtain shifts, the shadow returns. But this time, the figure steps closer to the glass. Closer, until its face almost fills the frame. And that's when Ethan saw it clearly for the first time. The face staring back at him wasn't unfamiliar. It was Harland, building suspense. The HOA president wasn't just warning him. He was inside the Marlowe house, and he wanted Ethan to know it. Ethan takes the tape to the police the next morning. He plays the footage. The officer watches, leans back, unimpressed. "Officer, sir, this footage is blurry. Shadows, reflections, could be anything. Honestly, looks like you're wasting our time." Ethan slams the table. "Ethan, that's him. That's Harland. You think I'm making this up?" The officer exhales, scribbles something on a notepad. Officer slowly, "Look, my advice, drop it. Sometimes the less you know, the safer you are." Sharp, unnerving. It wasn't incompetence, it was complicity. The police weren't blind, they were part of it. That night, Ethan returns home to find his front door slightly ajar. He knows he locked it. Slowly, he steps inside. Living room, silent. Kitchen, empty. Then he notices his camcorder, still aimed at the Marlowe house, has been moved. And on the small tape screen, written in bold black marker, "Stop watching." They had been inside his house. They knew what he was doing. And now, they were turning the hunt on him. Ethan freezes. A floorboard creaks upstairs. He's not alone. Ethan thought he was the one watching, but in Crestwood, the shadows always watch back. Faint sound of footsteps descending the stairs, deliberate, suspenseful. Ethan's home was supposed to be safe. 4 walls, a lock, a retreat from Crestwood's rot. But that night, as the floorboards groaned above him, he realized the truth. Safety was an illusion. Ethan's breath catches. The sound of slow, deliberate footsteps grows louder from the second floor. He grips the nearest object, a fireplace poker. Ethan to himself. Not tonight. Not in my house. The footsteps stop. Silence. Suddenly, a shadow passes the stairwell. Tall, broad-shouldered. Then nothing. Sharper, pulsing. Whoever it was, wasn't in a hurry. They wanted Ethan to feel it. The dread, the helplessness. Ethan before. Ethan, first timing by the trays, bolts out the back door, circling around to the front. His heart pounds as he stares at his own living room window. There it is, written across the glass in a greasy, dripping smear. We see you. It wasn't just Harland anymore. This was bigger. A network, watching, waiting, closing in. Ethan has discovered world. He indeed, he adopted for officially, a good Insta model window. The meeting this back one, any closter, has a farms for Karn does however, shadow. The next day, exhausted, Ethan drives 2 towns over to a public records office. He requests every deed, survey, and ownership transfer on the Marlowe property. The clerk hesitates. Clerk softly hesitant. Are you sure you want these? Ethan nods. The clerk slides a dusty manila folder across the counter. Inside are documents dating back decades. Deeds, mortgages, transfers. One name appears over and over again. Ethan reading, stunned, muttering, Harland, Harland, Harland. Ethan, but not just Harland. A company name keeps recurring too. Crestwood Community Development Trust. It wasn't about a single house. The Marlowes were never the target. The whole neighborhood was a facade, a cover, and Harland was the caretaker of something far older. As Ethan pores over the papers in a diner booth, an older woman slips into the seat across from him. Her voice trembles. Old woman, you shouldn't be reading those. Ethan, startled, surprised. Who are you? Old woman, leaning in, whispering. I lived on that block once. Before the Marlowes, before Harland moved in. People went missing even then. Families. Whole families. Erased. Ethan leans closer, desperate. What happened to them? The woman's eyes glisten with fear. Old woman. They ask questions, just like you. And then one night, their houses were empty, their names removed, as if they'd never existed. She grips his hand tightly. Old woman. If you don't leave soon, Ethan, you'll vanish too. For the first time, Ethan realized the Marlowes weren't victims of circumstance. They were erased intentionally. And he was next. That evening, Ethan returns home to find his mailbox stuffed with envelopes, all unmarked, all blank inside. But at the bottom of the stack is a single black card, white letters scrawled across it, silence, or join them. His phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number. Look outside. Ethan freezes. He peers through the blinds. Across the street, The Marlowe house windows blaze with light. For the first time in weeks, and standing in the window, perfectly still, is Harland. He lifts a finger to his lips. Shh. The game was over. Ethan wasn't investigating anymore. He was prey, and Crestwood's predators had finally stepped out of the shadows. The lights in the Marlowe house go out. Every bulb in Ethan's house flickers and dies. He's left in total darkness. And in that darkness, Ethan heard it again, the sound of footsteps. But this time, they weren't upstairs. They were right behind him. Then silence. Ethan had survived sleepless nights, shadowed streets, and endless warnings. But in Crestwood, the truth doesn't come cheap, and the final piece of the puzzle was about to cost him everything. Ethan stands frozen in his living room, every light dead, silence hanging thick in the air. The footsteps behind him stop. He swings the fireplace poker wildly. Nothing. Only the sound of his ragged breathing. Then a whisper. A voice, soft, chilling. You shouldn't have looked. The air shifts. Ethan lunges for the front door, yanking it open, but the street outside is wrong. Every house is pitch black, every porch light dead, the entire block swallowed by darkness. It wasn't just his home anymore. The whole neighborhood had gone silent, as if Crestwood itself had been waiting for this moment. Ethan races across the street to the Marlowe house. The door, surprisingly, is unlocked. The air smells of damp earth and mildew. He pushes deeper, flashlight in hand, until he finds a trap door under the living room rug. A set of wooden stairs leads down into the blackness. He descends. The basement isn't a basement, it's a tunnel. Long, narrow, carved into stone, and lining the walls, shelves stacked with boxes. Inside each box, family photos, letters, IDs, lives of people who once lived in Crestwood, all cataloged and stored like specimens. Ethan, voice shaking. They didn't just disappear, they were erased. At the end of the tunnel, Ethan finds a massive underground chamber lit by flickering lanterns. In the center stands Harland, waiting. Around him, hooded figures, neighbors, people Ethan saw every day. The mailman, the barber, even the smiling clerk from the diner. Harland, calm, steady. Thoughtful curiosity brought you here, Ethan, and now you understand. Crestwood was never a neighborhood. It was a covenant. Harland gestures to the shelves. Harland, chilling. Those families, they didn't vanish. They were sacrificed. Their names erased so we could remain unseen. Low, chilling. Ethan had stumbled into something far older than he imagined. A society built on silence, bound by blood and guarded by shadows. The hooded neighbors stepped forward, circling Ethan. Harland, smiling faintly, softly. You can't leave, Ethan. You know too much, but you don't have to vanish. You can join us. Ethan's heart races. His flashlight flickers, throwing warped shadows across the chamber. He sees the shelves again, the boxes of erased lives. He realizes the truth. Every neighbor he'd spoken to was complicit. Ethan, angrily, shouting, "You murder innocent families and call it a covenant?" Harland, calm, almost amused, chuckling, "Murder is loud, we are silence." The hooded figures close in. Ethan grabs a lantern and hurls it at the shelves. Flames erupt, racing up the old wood. Smoke fills the chamber. The hooded figures scream and scatter. Harland doesn't move. He just smiles through the haze. Harland, shouting, loudly, "You can burn the records, Ethan, but the block remembers. It always remembers." Ethan bolts back into the tunnel, choking on smoke. He bursts into the Marlowe house, flames licking up through the floorboards. Outside, neighbors stand silently in the street, watching, their faces blank, eyes reflecting firelight. Ethan speeds away in his car, gasping for air. He doesn't stop until he's miles outside Crestwood. He pulls into a gas station, shaking, ready to call the police. But when he hands the clerk his ID to verify his card, the clerk frowns.
That's strange. System says you don't exist.
Ethan freezes. He grabs a newspaper from the rack. His stomach drops. The front page headline reads, "Local teacher Ethan Cole missing, presumed dead." His own photo stares back at him. Crestwood hadn't just taken families. It had already taken him. Ethan's name was gone, his identity erased. He was already part of the block. Ethan drops the paper. His phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. "Welcome home." He looks up. Across the street, under the gas station's flickering neon, stands Harland, smiling. And in that moment, Ethan realized, you don't leave Crestwood. Crestwood leaves you. Ethan thought the worst was behind him. He had faced Harlan's return, seen the masks of his neighbors slip, and felt the crushing paranoia that came with it. But he was wrong. The real nightmare was only beginning. Ethan grabs his car keys at dawn, sweat still clinging to his skin from a sleepless night. His plan is simple. Leave Crestwood. Drive until the roads are nothing but dirt and fields. Never look back. The streets are empty, fog curling low across the asphalt. He passes the familiar mailboxes, the perfect lawns, the same cracked sidewalk near the cul-de-sac. He doesn't stop. He doesn't dare. But as he drives past the stop sign at the edge of the neighborhood, he finds himself back on Maple Street. No matter which turn he took, every road bent back to the same place. Ethan slams the brakes, staring at his own house, the same curtains drawn, the same light flickering in the upstairs window, even though he left the lights off. Panicked, Ethan pulls into a gas station on the outskirts of town. At least, it looks like a gas station. Rusted pumps, a convenience store. Inside, the shelves are half empty. The clerk at the counter doesn't look up when Ethan grabs a paper, but as he flips it open, his stomach tightens. The date at the top reads, August 16, 2035. 10 years into the future. The headlines don't make sense. Whole cities gone. Names of leaders he's never heard of. When he looks up, the clerk is finally staring at him, and the man whispers, voice low, eyes glassy, "You were never supposed to see that." Ethan drops the paper. The entire store is silent now. The hum of the coolers has stopped. The only sound is the faint creak of footsteps coming from the aisles behind him. Back home, Ethan paces his garage, surrounded by maps and notes. He tries to make sense of it all. Suddenly, from outside the window, he hears children playing, laughter, jump ropes hitting pavement, a normal sound, until he hears his own voice, repeated. Don't dig beneath the block. He freezes, looks out the window. A group of kids are in the street, but every single one of them is mimicking him. Same words, same inflection. And when he gasps, covering his mouth, they all stop in unison and turn their heads toward him, like puppets waiting for their master's next command. The tallest child steps forward, smiling, and in Harlan's exact voice he says, "Child," Harlan's tone, "you can't run from this, Ethan." Desperate, Ethan sneaks into the county courthouse late at night, the same place he pulled his deed months ago. This time, he isn't looking for property records. He's looking for answers. In a back room, locked in a cabinet, he finds a thin file labeled with his name. His heart stutters as he opens it. Inside, black and white photographs of his house, his garage, his parents, even himself at age 5. Stamped in red on the final page, Observation Candidate Number 6. The photos were taken decades before he moved in, before he was even born. At the bottom of the file, one last note, handwritten in rushed strokes. Terminate if aware. On his drive back, Ethan sees it again. The black SUV parked across the street from his house. Same tinted windows, same engine idling low. This time, he walks up to it. He bangs on the glass. Ethan, furious, desperate, shouting, "Why are you watching me? What do you want?" The window slowly rolls down. Inside, there's no driver, just a cassette recorder on the seat, playing back Ethan's voice from earlier. Ethan's own voice. "You were never supposed to stay." Ethan stumbles back, eyes wide, as the SUV engine revs and the vehicle drives itself away into the night. Low, deliberate, cinematic. That was the moment Ethan realized the truth. Crestwood wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a prison, and the walls were closing in. Low, tense, measured. Ethan had spent nights tracing maps, staring at photos, piecing together fragments of a puzzle that felt older than him. But in the end, the truth wasn't hidden in files, or newspapers, or black SUVs. It was beneath his own home. He found the door in his basement one night. Not the regular cellar door, another one behind the drywall. A thin outline visible only because the paint had chipped, revealing a seam. He pressed his ear to it. From the other side, faintly, he heard humming, like electricity, like voices. He found a crowbar and began to pry. The hidden door opened into a narrow staircase carved into concrete, spiraling down. The deeper he went, the colder the air became. The sound grew louder. When he reached the bottom, he froze. The basement wasn't a basement at all. It was a tunnel, stretching beneath every house on the block. Every home in Crestwood was connected. As he stepped inside, the lights overhead flickered on by themselves, sterile, humming, like hospital bulbs. And on the walls, photographs, dozens of them, his neighbors, his parents, himself. At the tunnel's end was a chamber, round, metallic, filled with old monitors stacked on top of one another. Each screen glowed faintly, buzzing with static. One by one, the screens flickered, and Ethan saw himself. Different versions. On one screen, he was mowing the lawn. On another, asleep in bed. On another, standing in this very room, staring at the screen. What the hell is this? From the corner of the chamber, a voice answered him. "It's proof you were never living here. You were always being studied." Ethan spun around. It was Mr. Harland, the neighbor who had disappeared months ago, but he didn't look like himself anymore. His eyes were sunken, his smile stretched thin. His voice was calm, too calm. "We all are. Every one of us on this block. Candidates, subjects, trapped here to see how long it takes before we break." Ethan shook his head. "No, you're lying. This is insane." Harlan stepped closer. "Then ask yourself, Ethan, why do the roads always bring you back?" Harlan leans forward and whispers, "Because Crestwood isn't a neighborhood, it's a loop." Ethan searches the chamber, pulling open drawers, rifling through stacks of papers. Every page is filled with logs, dates, observations. Subject number 6, displays paranoia, refuses assimilation. Subject number 7, terminated after breach attempt. Subject number 8, replacement required. He drops the papers. His hands shake. His number is there, clear as day. Candidate number 6. Every neighbor, every child, every laugh he heard outside. They weren't living freely. They were living inside a script. Suddenly, the chamber lights flicker violently. Sirens wail. The walls vibrate. Harland smiles, unfazed. Harland smirking. They know you're here now. The monitors all turn to static, then show a single chilling sentence in bold red letters. Candidate number 6, terminate. Ethan's breath catches. The tunnel begins to shake. Dust rains from the ceiling. Cliffhanger beat. He races toward the staircase, but when he looks back, Harland is gone. And in the static of the monitors, Ethan sees his own face staring back, smiling, as if mocking him. Low cinematic, closing. That was the moment Ethan realized. The neighborhood was never his prison. It was his reflection. And if he didn't escape soon, the next version of Ethan they built might not even be human. Ethan sprinted up the staircase, lungs burning, ears pounding with the blare of alarms. The walls shook violently as if the entire neighborhood above was groaning awake. Every step up, he told himself the same thing. I'm getting out. I'm not just another candidate. I'm not a number. But when he reached the door, the hidden basement door he had pried open hours earlier, it slammed shut on its own. He pulled. He shoved. Nothing. The humming from below grew louder, like the tunnel itself was alive. Then, silence. The alarm stopped. The vibration ceased. Ethan turned around, and the chamber behind him was gone. No tunnel, no monitors, no Harland. Just a plain basement wall, smooth, empty. He stumbled back, confused, clutching his head. His heartbeat thundered in his chest. Ethan, whisper trembling. No, I didn't imagine it, I didn't. But when he bolted upstairs to the kitchen, he froze. Everything looked new. The furniture polished. The clock on the wall ticking from the exact same time as when he first moved in. Outside, the neighborhood looked perfect again. Children on bikes. Neighbors smiling and waving, like nothing had happened. But Ethan saw it now. The stiffness in their movements. The way their eyes lingered on him too long. The faint hum under the air, like static bleeding into reality. Low, deliberate. He hadn't escaped. He had reset. The experiment didn't kill him. It recycled him. Ethan's phone buzzed on the counter. A single new message. No number attached. He opened it. It read, Candidate number 6, reinserted successfully. Monitor for degradation. His breath hitched. The phone slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. That night, Ethan stood at his window, watching. Across the street, a dark SUV idled, headlights dim. And in the glass reflection of his own window, he saw something that made his stomach drop. He was smiling, but his face wasn't. His reflection moved, a second too late. The truth was undeniable. The Ethan who escaped the chamber never made it back. The Ethan standing here now wasn't him at all. What happened in Crestwood is terrifying, but it teaches us something real. We live in a world where it's easy to feel watched, controlled, or trapped in loops we didn't choose. But like Ethan, we always have a choice. To see what's in front of us or to question it, to live blindly or to fight for the truth. Because in the end, the scariest prisons aren't the ones built around us. They're the ones built within us. So if you've ever felt stuck in a loop, repeating the same cycle, ask yourself, are you really trapped? Or is it time to break free? This is True Crime Darkside, Secrets and Shadows. If Ethan's story shook you, hit that like button, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because we're only getting started. There are darker truths waiting, and I promise you don't want to miss what's coming next.